It's game week in Carolina as the Panthers travel down to New Orleans. Let's talk about the keys to success for the Panthers to pull off the win.
Look, I think, from an offensive standpoint, I thought they kind of beefed up their offensive line. They got probably bigger on the interior than maybe what they've been. Tommy Trimble's the guy that we've played against. Jordan Matthews, Thielen is the ultimate professional in terms of a receiver, and then I think they, added a explosive playmaker in Deontay Johnson. So I think they've done some things offensively to really. Ashawn Robinson, a defensive end tackle that we've played against is a good football player. So I think they've done some things. I think in particular, I think they've done some things to upgrade themselves with Clowney as a pass rusher.
We have a 1 o'clock kickoff in the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Hey, if you haven't had a chance, go out and look at the renovations to the Caesars Superdome as they get ready to host the Super Bowl this year. The question is, will the New Orleans Saints be playing in their own stadium? I think some Saints fans would believe so. They are coming off a 9-8 record going against the Carolina Panthers, who we know finished at 2-15. It is a 1 o'clock kickoff for these teams. Saints are now a 4-point favorite. I don't think that line's moved too much, although on one sports book I saw 3.5. I still like the Carolina Panthers to pull this off, but it's not going to be easy, folks. When we go back and look at last year at the stat lines, number one, the Saints have won 2 games in a row against the Carolina Panthers. They lead the all-time series 30-28. The last meeting was a 28-6 beatdown in New Orleans, and Bryce Young did not fare great. Taking a look at where the teams finished last year, this is going to be a recurring theme for a lot of folks. It's hard to gauge who this team is, and all the other 31 NFL teams are, except for Kansas City and Baltimore, who we just saw. It's hard to gauge a team this early in the year, so you're going to be basing it off of last year, even though there's been so much roster turnover. This is just a fresh start. So it's hard to do that, but that's what we're going to do. Panthers offense was 32 overall, 20th in rushing, 32nd in passing, 31st in scoring, averaging less than 2 touchdowns per game. On the defensive side of the ball, they were 4th in yards allowed, 23 in rushing yards allowed, and then 4th in passing yards allowed, 29th in scoring defense. Not great. Offensively, for the Saints, they averaged 14th in the league, so right there in the middle of the pack, 21st in rushing, 11th in passing for your boy Derek Carr, and 9th in scoring, so very competent offense. On the defensive side of the ball, they were 13th, so a little closer to being towards the top of the league, 22nd in rushing, so I think as we start to talk about keys to success for the Carolina Panthers, has to be the running game with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. We have got to see a new version of Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders getting to 50 yards or more is going to be crucial, and then Chuba Hubbard carrying up the rear with 75. But we gotta get around 125 rushing yards, I think. Passing defense was 10th, so we know they're going to be hard to stop, and we'll go back and look in just a second at Bryce Young's stats in the first 2 meetings. And scoring difference, 8th overall. So we've got our numbers. Let's talk about Bryce Young because he is the number one key to the game for me for the Panthers to pull off this upset. We know that Bryce Young last season did not fare well. I went back just to see how he did in the 2 games that he played against the New Orleans Saints, and it was by far 2 of the worst games that he had. We know about the Monday Night Football game. I just talked about the game in which he traveled to New Orleans and lost. In 2 meetings against them last year, he had a 50.72% completion percentage, barely completing half of his passes, 290 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He did not have an interception. A 66.7 passer rating was sacked 8 times, which was the most out of any team. And I know we only play Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans twice, so you stack those up. It's still sacked 8 times, 4.2 yards per attempt. The numbers for Bryce Young were not great at all. Now, I went back, started to look at Bryce Young and his splits, and let's talk about those. There were a few metrics where Bryce really excelled last year. On third and less than 3, his passer rating was 109.6. In second and 4 to 5 yards, it was 82.9. And then first and less than 10 yards because, hey, less than 10 yards because of a penalty on first down opens things up. 93.5 passer rating. Outside of that, a lot of other downs, especially third down and fourth down where we saw, shouldn't say fourth down, but third down, passing downs. That's where a lot of the sacks accumulated. Second down was by far the worst passing down for Bryce Young last season with a 56.3 passer rating. On first down, he has an 84.6 rating. On third down, 81.4. However, a majority of his sacks came on third down. So 32, over half of his sacks. And we know in most situations, third down is your passing down. So holding on to the ball, the pressure, not having receivers get open. It's going to be critical for Bryce Young and this Carolina Panthers to get in favorable situations, 2nd and 5 or 6, 3rd and 3, 4, 5 yards. Manageable downs. It's a term that's thrown around quite a bit, but I think the Panthers are going to have that if they want to see success against the New Orleans Saints. I don't think it's going to be an easy task by any means. On the offensive side of the ball, if we were to kind of put together a game plan for the Carolina Panthers, starting this thing off early, we know that the rushing attack has to be there. I would say getting Bryce Young into space with play action, moving him around in the pocket, take advantage of Deontay Johnson. You saw what Xavier Worthy just did, and I know Xavier Leggett's a different type of player, different sizes. Speed is not exactly the same. Get Xavier Leggett involved early, folks. I want to see him get some touches. I talked about Miles Sanders. We're going to talk a lot about Chuba. But Miles Sanders, he's got to be the factor in the passing game because I think that's where he will thrive in this offense. Hopefully the finger's okay. And then our good old tight ends. I mean, we could go through the whole receiving core, but somebody in the tight end room is going to have to step up and have a big day. Is that Jordan Matthews? Is it Jatavian Sanders? Is it Tommy Trimble? Ian Thomas likely out for this game. And of course, as we talk about offense, we can't talk about offense without talking about the pocket for Bryce Young and not giving up sacks. It's okay. You play a 17-game schedule. If you get sacked 2 times per game, is that 34 sacks on the year? That's not bad. I want to see that number from 62 reduced in half this year. So if we can get 32 to in the 40 range, that is a significant improvement to not have Bryce Young on his back. Now we flip to the defensive side of the ball, and hey, Shaq Thompson back and healthy. Josie Jewell. There was a question this week with Evero, who's going to step up in Frankie Louvu's spot. He didn't say that who the chess piece is going to be that takes over, but I would expect some fun things coming on that side of the ball. Stopping Alvin Kamara is going to be critical, and where I look for the Panthers to potentially have a weakness is in the passing game. We know about New Orleans Saints getting Kamara involved in the passing game and the weapons that they have with Olave and Rashid Shaheed, what they'll be able to do. Derek Carr finished the year pretty solid, and I've talked about his numbers and stat lines already, but this guy is not as bad as people think. And when you are now trotting out there Mike Jackson, who I hope is great, and you brought in a bunch of guys off of waivers claims and they've had a week and a half to accumulate and get ready, there's an opportunity for a busted coverage or miscommunication, and those are the things that could be costly for the Panthers. But when we talk about the Saints, on the offensive side of the ball, their offensive line play has been bad. Now, is that going to carry over into the season? I hope so, for our sake, at least in this game, that we see bad offensive line play, because we got to get some pressure. I have faith in Jadeveon Clowney, but if they're able to stack up against him on that side, because they know on the backside with DJ Johnson and the rotation of Leota and Sheriff or whoever else is out there that there's not going to be pressure, they're going to be able to adjust and hold up the pocket for Derek Carr, and I think he's going to be able to find some guys that can get open and make some plays. So coming into this game, as we talk about the defensive side of the ball, I think it's who's getting the pressure, can we stop the run, and how does the secondary hold up? Should be a fun game. I've already predicted this for the Carolina Panthers as a win, and I'm excited to see them in action. 24-20 was my final score prediction. Can't wait to see y'all back once I'm live on here. So y'all have a good one. See ya.